Sometimes you just have to be in the right place at the right time for an idea to really strike.
Parent is a verb, not a noun. I would love to understand more about that.
Parenting is something that is a 24-hour-a-day job, 7 days a week.
The beautiful thing about our country is we're all diverse.
It's a pencil. I'll buy you 100 pencils if you need.
Are we expected to be like therapists and psychologists now? What's going on? I'm a teacher. I'm here to teach.
Teaching has always been a hard job, but I think it's fair to say that this profession has become increasingly challenging over the years.
Family comes first. If your child or your own parents have something you need to take care of, then you do that. Because a teacher who is not mentally in the classroom isn't doing the kids any good just by being there. I also recommend, for example, I use Boomerang. I'll boomerang the message to go out for the next morning during working hours. If you're going to go to battle against the 13 or 14-year-old, don't.
The Avenue of the Strongest is a podcast dedicated to exploring the lives and experiences of the most inspiring individuals from around the world. Each episode features interviews with fascinating guests who share their insights and wisdom on a variety of topics, including education, impact, motivation, health, and learning. I'm your host, Ania Chowdhury.
And Vlad Suleiman.
And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Julie Troletti, principal of Ingenium Charter Middle School. Ingenium Charter Middle School, also known as ICMS, serves over 250 students in grades 6 to 8. Dr. Troletti has previously taught for the biggest school district in California and has over 18 years of experience being a teacher, director of curriculum and instruction, and now a principal. Dr. Troletti, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I want to take you back to almost 20 years ago. I would love to hear the story about how you got into the teaching field. Why a teacher? Why this industry? This podcast is sponsored by ArgoPrep, an award-winning educational publisher serving over 1 million students nationwide. If you're a kindergarten to 8th grade teacher or principal, be sure to check out our supplementary workbooks to get your students ready for standardized state testing. We cover all subjects from kindergarten to 8th grade. Use the coupon code AVENUE for a 25% discount off of all purchase orders. Visit us today at argoprep.com/store.
That's a good question, and actually, teaching and education as a whole was really a second career for me. And it's a great story, but the foundation of it not so great. What happened was I was a stay-at-home mom, and I had a child entering kindergarten and then a preschooler. And my son's kindergarten class, he was at a private school, and they were going through kindergarten teachers like water. And so I volunteered in the classroom almost every day. I helped with lesson planning. And then the not so great part, my husband left me. And so now here I am, a stay-at-home parent. And what am I going to do? And I wasn't sure what my next move was. And the headmistress of my son's school said, I don't understand why you don't become a teacher. You're here every day. It's basically what you're doing. And so I thought, you know what? I really enjoyed being with the kids, and it just seemed like the right answer at the right time. So I went back to school. I got my master's in elementary education. I got my multi-subject teaching credential, and I became a teacher. It wasn't quite as easy as that, but that really is the short version of it.
The very short.
So it was. It was wonderful. It was a great idea.
Along the way, yes?
It was, sometimes you just have to be in the right place at the right time for an idea to really strike. And when I heard that idea, it just felt right.
Mm. I kind of want to hone in on something you mentioned, which is the kindergarten that your child was attending. The teachers were leaving like water. It was being changed around. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And how did that make you feel as a parent at that time? Were there like red flags going on? Like, well, what's going on here? Why is the staff turnover rate so high?
You know what? I didn't actually, it wasn't a red flag at all. It was a school I really, really wanted my son at
Mm,
because it used to be called the Farm School in Los Angeles. And they had a farm there with all the animals. And that's what I wanted for my son. I didn't want my kids in a highly academic setting, especially at 5 years old. 5 years
yeah.
old, let's practice sharing and socializing and whatnot, and everything else will come. And so I didn't think of much of it. I know that a lot of times at private schools, the pay is not the same as a public school. It's not always as good. And so, no, it really never was a red flag. I
Mm,
just figured it wasn't the right environment for those teachers because
okay.
you kind of have to
Yeah.
find your fit. And I just thought, oh, it's just not their fit.
100%. Now, you mentioned something in our communication, which is parent is a verb, not a noun. I would love to understand more about that.
So that's actually the name. I've been trying to write a book. I've been trying to really get people to understand what I mean by parent as a verb is to have a child doesn't, it may biologically make you a parent, but parenting is something that is a 24-hour a day job, 7 days a week. There's no downtime. There's no, sick days. And that to raise a successful child, and I don't mean that they get into Harvard, but a
Right.
child that can cope with things thrown their way, that can handle sometimes disappointments, that can show perseverance and grit. You need a parent that is there alongside every step of the way. And when a child excels and when a child really does well, it is the child we celebrate. But if a child is getting in trouble or whatnot, it's the parent that takes the blame. And
Mm,
so I've spent time really reflecting when my kids, my own two kids, when they've been successful, what was it that helped them become successful? And when they face challenges, what was my role in that? Did I just sit back? Was I on my
mm,
phone? Was I playing, was I too busy on Facebook or whatnot to give them the support they need? And of course, children will make their own choices, but as a parent, it's our job to be there along the way and give our children our full attention, even when it's difficult, even when, sometimes kids could really push your buttons. And I know my own two boys know how to push my buttons, but remembering I'm the adult and they're looking to me for advice and they're looking to me for guidance.
mm,
And so, well, I don't want to think I was a strict parent. There were definitely guidelines. And the hardest part, both as a parent and a principal or a teacher, holding my kids accountable
mm.
when if I say something, if you do that again, you're going to lose your phone, then I
Right.
have to do that. Even if I'd rather them be playing on their phone so I could get my own work done. I
Mm,
can't.
right.
And that's what I really mean is it is something where we have to be, we are always a parent, that there's not that timeout. There's not that, you know what? I need to get my own work done. So you
Right.
go and entertain yourself with a video game. I can't do that. And my own kids now are 22 and 23. But I still, when they call or whatnot for support, I still have to put my own stuff secondary.
Yeah.
They have
Yeah.
to come first.
Yeah. Parenting is the hardest job in the world, right? It's a 24/7 job.
So,
Yeah.
Right.
so
And, my mom even told me, my parents always said, it doesn't stop when they're 18.
Yeah.
And they're right. It
so
doesn't.
as a principal, do you give this message to your parents at school? This
I do, especially if I'm conferencing with a parent about if there was something, if for whatever reason that conference is needed, is letting the parents know also when they say, well, I don't know what to do. She doesn't listen to me.
Mm,
Okay, well, who pays the phone bill?
right.
Then take the phone away, or really kind of nurturing that feeling of respect. The children do have to respect their parents, and it's up to us as the parents to teach that to our kids. It's not something that comes, it's not innate. And as culture and society changes, it's still, we have to be the ones as educators and parents to let our kids and our students know what is it we expect of them, what is it we need to see from them.
I want to talk about reform in education. This has been talked about topic for years and years, and there's constant debates and thoughts and ideas and experiments. So, what are the most promising education reforms that you support? Or what education reforms are needed?
What I think to really truly reform our educational system is we're starting now since COVID to really make sure social and emotional learning is brought in, but it goes deeper than that. It's not anything to do with, I believe, curriculum. I believe it all has to do with really solidifying the relationships between our kids. And this isn't new, and people are, everybody's saying, yes, it's got to be building this trust, but we have to, as educators, become more empathetic to our students. And what do they come to our classroom with? And it's a lot more than I know. I'm experiencing students with experiences I can't even imagine, whether it's experiences they've had when they've crossed over the border. And I have students who have been in detention centers for over a year or over 2 years, and then seeing certain behaviors, like if there is certain survival skills they've had to develop over the course of their lives that I cannot begin to imagine, but I have to be empathetic to that. And it makes a difference between criminalizing a child for their experiences, or being empathetic and understanding what children need, and what some kids need is different than others. So true educational reform comes from really stressing more about the relationship between school staff and students than anything that can be found in a textbook. Because when we treat all the kids the same, we're really denying them the benefit of their experiences. And also, what have they learned? Because they're learning a lot more things in their own lives than they're going to learn in school. So how do we embrace that? And how do we let them know it's okay? And it's okay if they're having struggles because of their experiences, but we're here to support them and find the best way that they can learn, because they're not all going to learn in the same way. And that's okay. We have to be okay with this standardized, across the board, one size fits all approach. It doesn't work, and we have to be willing to let go of that. Not everybody's willing to let go of that. That's where I truly believe educational reform will come from.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, every child, we don't know, but we all have our unique set of experiences. And as you mentioned, this is a very diverse country where we have students from all around the world. In fact, just this weekend, I had the humbled opportunity to speak with a 20-year-old student who fled from the war in Ukraine, and the story that she told me was just so traumatizing. I mean, she told it with, in a calm manner, but I can't imagine the kind of trauma that story goes through, being separated by the parents and walking through the forest alone, trying to get to the next city, afraid that there's a bomb, right? So it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think we need to understand that the beautiful thing about our country is we're all diverse, and we all come from different experiences. It's not like other regions of the world where, it's very localized. And so if you take that into consideration, yeah, I mean, there is no one size fits all approach, and not a group of 20 students in a classroom won't be able to, consume the standardized testing materials that need to be taught in a given time. So I know I know like trauma informed teaching is a big thing, right? So talk about that, because some teachers, say, like, are we expected to be like therapists and psychologists now? Like, I mean, what's going on? Like, I'm a teacher. I'm here to teach. So like, what kind of training do you provide to your teachers in school to really to do exactly what we're talking about now?
I'm really glad you asked that, because trauma-informed instruction is really my jam. It's what I love. I love training. I do training with other schools aside from my own. And it's something where I'll give an example. At my school right now, kids are always putting their backpacks on their tables. And we have found some poor choices are made when backpacks are on tables. I have a distraction-free environment, which means no cell phones for students. And I ask staff, no cell phones in view of students. But when backpacks are on tables, that's when they play on their phones. That's when poor choices are made. And so it was really retraining the staff that there's going to be resistance when asking a child, please put your backpack away, or when they go to the bathroom, leave your backpack here. Because actually quite a few of my kids, the backpack is the one piece of something that is just theirs, that they don't have to share with a sibling, that they don't have to worry about somebody well, they do worry about people stealing them, but that backpack is their one thing. And so there's the security attachment. So asking a child to leave it behind is not as simple as leave it behind. And then getting teachers to really understand this isn't a hill we want to die on. We don't want to go to battle or criminalize a child's attachment to the backpack. So really understanding that trauma-informed instruction isn't just this one big thing. It's a lot of tiny actions. So now if I'm going to be arguing with a student, which first of all, I always tell my teachers, if you're going to go to battle against a 13 or 14-year-old, don't. You will lose. They have nothing to lose. You have everything to lose.
Yeah.
Find a different way to approach it. But for the example of the backpack, if you're not going to argue with a child, first of all, in front of their peers, they will not back down. They will not lose their face in front of their friends. But now you're destroying that bond, that relationship that is so crucial for education and for teacher-student relations. So really think about, why are they leaving it? Why don't they want to let go of their backpack? And then let's talk about it after class, not in front of an audience. And let's really see, but let's not break that bond. And really, by showing some of this compassion is a really great way to build that trust. And with kids, you really need to have that trust. If they don't trust you, they're not going to answer your questions in school. They're not going to do what you want them to do. And so when I do teach trauma-informed instruction, it's really about understanding what is it the kids have gone through, how can we relate to them, and how can we help them grow as children. But that doesn't mean we're fighting over a backpack. Or even when I see teachers who, if a child says, I forgot my pencil, going into these arguments, it's a pencil.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times a day I lose my pen. Where did I leave my pen? Where did I leave my phone? I don't know. So why am I going to get upset for a child who's asking for help? And that to me is also part of the trauma-informed instruction, is getting teachers to really understand it's a pencil. I'll buy you 100 pencils if you need. But don't make the child feel embarrassed that they don't have a pencil, because now you've broken that. And now, do you think after a child is embarrassed in class, they're going to sit down and do their work? They're not. So when I work with different schools, it's really trying to get the teachers to understand there's so much more than what we know of. We only know what the child comes into class with. We don't know, though, the baggage they carry with them. And that's what true trauma-informed instruction is. Assume most kids today have had some traumatizing experience. And I'm not even talking about COVID or school closure. We see our parents, they may be arguing, or there may be things that as a child I personally never experienced, but that doesn't, in no way should my lack of experience degrade or diminish the importance of their experiences.
Oh, I love the example with the backpack. I would never think about this way of thinking of it, and I hope all principals of schools thinking like this and attending your coaching sessions and applying it in their schools. we would have much better education system. So now let's speak about the teachers. So we spoke about the pupils. Now let's speak about the teachers. We can all agree that teaching has always been a hard job, but I think it's fair to say that this profession has become increasingly challenging over the years. There are record numbers of teachers experiencing burnout and frustration. In fact, we recently took, I think, around like 10 interviews with teachers, and 99% of them confirmed that they are experienced anxiety and burnout. So my question to you is, how can principals help teachers overcome burnout?
Well, what I would recommend is what I like to think my practice is. I treat my staff with how I want them to treat their students, which is again with a lot of empathy and understanding. There's trauma that our own teachers are facing as well. And I think it's important that administration remembers teachers are people. They go through the same things everybody goes through. If a teacher, I have to have a trust with my teachers. I have to know that if they have a question or a problem, they can come to me. If they're just feeling like today they cannot be at work, let me know. I truly believe in mental health days. I never want a teacher to be stressed out because it's either coming to school or seeing a child's, their own kids do something. Go. Family always has to come first. And I try to stress that with my staff. Family comes first. If your child or your own parents have something you need to take care of, then you do that. Because a teacher who is not mentally in the classroom isn't doing the kids any good just by being there. And I think it's also important that the teachers know that I've got their back. I always try to tell them, if you're having an issue with a student or a parent, let me know, because I don't like surprises and I want to be able to be prepared. And so if a parent comes to me with a concern or whatnot, I don't want that to be the first time I'm hearing of it. And also never jumping to conclusions, or always making sure I let my teachers know if there are any concerns or whatnot. I will do a thorough investigation before, but I will always have my teachers back unless it's something egregious. But I will always have my teachers back. They have to know I'm fighting for them and I'm in their corner. And, then like I will never go and throw them under the bus. I will do a thorough investigation. And if there's something that, yes, maybe the teacher was a little hard on the student or for whatever reasons, I do let the teachers know I will work with them on what it is they need to improve. But I also don't let the families, I don't give out a lot of information because there's confidentiality. And I use that really also to protect my teachers. I will work with them if there's something I find that needs to be worked on, but I will never go back to a parent and say, yeah, you're right, that teacher is so horrible and targeted your kid. No, that's never going to happen. The teachers really have to know that I am on their side. I'm supporting them. I wouldn't have my job if they weren't doing their job. And at the end of the day, I know it's an overused cliche, but it really takes a village to not just raise, but to educate a child. I can't do this on my own, and they shouldn't expect to have to do it on their own. They need to know there's a team to support them. And I would ask all principals, your teachers are humans. They have their own lives and their own challenges and their own celebrations. Embrace that. Don't use that against them.
We also see a lot of burnout also connected to overworking, because I see a lot of teachers responding to emails, because we work with the teachers a lot, after work hours. They're responding to emails at 9 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m. What, they don't have families that they can
I ask
spend
my
time
own,
with?
yeah, I do ask my own staff, please, after 6 o'clock, don't look at your email. You need to now use this time to decompress, to spend time with your family. And my expectation is I may be sending emails out at all times because I just do that in my job, and there's never enough hours in the day, but I do stop looking at emails, and I try not to look on weekends unless I'm working on something. And I ask the same of my teachers, and I do let them know, just because I send an email at this time, I'm not expecting a response until the next day or 24 hours or 48 hours later.
Right.
But I do expect them to stop looking at email. And I also recommend, like, for example, I use Boomerang. So because I do know some teachers are just, they will naturally respond to emails when I don't want them to, I'll Boomerang the message to go out for the next morning during working hours. Because there are times I do need to set the model, I do need to set the example and let them know it's really, I think, training them not to look at their email. And part of everybody's always on their phone, so they naturally look at email. I personally, I have a work phone, so I do not put my email on my personal phone. When it's not time to be working, I will not be carrying my work phone. And I think that separation is really hard to reach. And there are many, many years I could not make that separation. And I think it's just, I think really probably since COVID, it was like, yeah, no, I have to make this distinction. And I ask that of my staff. Don't be looking at your email all weekend and at night. That's the time for you to be with whatever it is that interests you.
Yeah, that's a good advice. So now let's move to nowadays and new realities with emergence of sophisticated AI chatbots. I'm sure you already heard about it, the ChatGPT. So there is growing debate over whether this technology is doing more harm than good, and many districts across the country have already banned the use of this in their school servers. So I would love to hear your thoughts on AI. Is it going to be a major disruptor, or where we have to reimagine our classrooms?
For my limited knowledge of it, I am actually I'm torn on that because I do believe it's important for people to know where to find resources. I'm not thrilled with thinking you could ask a question and it's going to give you this big long answer that stops you from having to do all this research. But when I think back to when phones really started showing up everywhere, people were also saying, "Oh my gosh, how's this going to affect learning and all of that?" And I think it all comes down to the responsibility of it. Are we using it responsibly? And there are always going to be people when you build it, when there's a new invention, they just have to build a better mousetrap to see how to use that. And I think with AI, that is something we're going to have to learn to harness. It also depends on what the purpose is. If a student of mine is using something to write an essay on the War of 1812. Personally, could I do that? No. If I found a way around that, I would use it. And so it's a matter of in school thinking, is it something where is this going to impact my students' future if they use AI for something like that? And the chances are probably no. So what is it that we're afraid they would be using that for? Math functions, I need them to know math. That I do. But some other things, I think it's really looking at the bigger picture. How could this hurt them and how can this help them? And it's going to come down to what are they using it for? I know, I think it was in Italy, they've already banned the complete use of it. Here, I think it's still too early, but it is going to be, is it being used responsibly? What is the student missing out on if they're trying to find a shortcut? What is it that I want them to learn that they're not going to be learning? So I'm not sure if that answers, but
Yeah, it did. I absolutely agree with you. And I like the point that you said you have to use it responsibly. And I think teachers also have to be educated about these new technologies, and they have to be involved in giving the right information to students how to use it, because this tool is really can be used to harm students as well as to help students. So as you said, if they're writing some essay, they can research some information which can come up very fast, and they can write in their own words. So yeah, everything can be good used as a good as a bad. There is always both sides of the story. So as an educator and principal, I would love to ask you one last question from my side. If there is one
Okay.
piece of advice that families can do that you would highly recommend, what would it be?
One piece of advice, I would say, listen to your child. That's what I would tell parents. Really listen to them. Do little things like ask them how their day was. The students that I know I work with who have challenges with their parents, it's not because they don't have a Switch or they don't have the latest iPhone. It's because they don't have quality time with their parents. I have kids who they have a few different siblings and they say all they would like is maybe one day their mom would take them to Starbucks for a coffee or an iced tea.
Mm.
Or maybe it's they have dinner as a family, or their father asks them, how was your day today? So it's these little things. I feel like as parents, we want to give our kids everything, understanding it's the little things that make a difference to the kids. The kids, they don't care about the phone. They want to know that they are loved and that they are respected by their parents. And that would be my advice to parents is take a moment, put down your phone, get off of Insta or TikTok, ask your children how they are, ask them about their dreams, ask them how they're feeling. Really, ask them who's your best friend, or are you is everything going good with your friends? But ask them about their lives because that's what the kids really want to share with their families. And it's something that when parents are working long night shifts and multiple jobs, that is one of the first things that gets thrown by the wayside. And that is what the kids want the most is their parents' attention. So that would be my advice. Put down the phone, talk to your child.
Beautiful.
Dr. Troletti, I do have one last question for you on my side, which is who has been the strongest or most inspiring person in your life, and what lessons have you learned from them?
Now, this is probably the most difficult because I've taken inspiration from so many people, either people I've known or I haven't known. But if it comes down to one single person, I would say most probably, well, not definitely, it would be my father. He is a child of the Holocaust. He is a survivor. He was born in Poland in 1935, not a great place to be Jewish. And not only as an entire family, my grandparents and my aunt and uncle and my father, they had a horrific experience. They ended up escaping Poland, spending many years up in Siberia, going through different orphanages that were not great places, not nice, facing starvation. And through just a series of very bizarre coincidences and I guess fate, for lack of a better word, they made it to America. In the Lower East Side of Manhattan, eventually making it to Brooklyn, and seeing everything that's been thrown at him or come his way. He's never been a victim.
Mm.
He has always shown strength that I could never imagine. Even now, he is, I think, almost 87 or 88. His birthday actually, they had to change his birthday in the orphanage because he
Mm.
would get more food if he was a certain age. So they changed his birthday. He suffers like a lot of health issues now, a lot of them actually stemming from the Holocaust and from starvation. But he will never sit down. He never, no matter how much pain he's in, he does what needs to be done. And he's never been a victim, and he's never questioned anything. Like he's never done the why me. He just
Right.
does what has to be done. He has always been there for his family, for me and my two sisters. He and my mom now have 5 grandkids. He is there for everything. And I think that would really be it. This just watching him and know there's no time for self-pity. There's no time for any of that. You do what has to be done, and that's the
Yeah.
end of the story. If your kids need you, if your spouse needs you, if even your pet, whoever needs you, you are there for them. You show up and you give it your all. And to this day, he does that. And I mean, my parents now, thank God they're both still alive, and they've been married for 63 years now. And
Wow.
they've definitely shown for better or worse and in sickness and health. And really amazing. His story is absolutely amazing. And the craziest thing is I never knew the full story up until 3 years ago. My dad used to
Wow.
like to hide parts. He never wanted to talk about it. And then it really came down to, look, when you die, your story's gone.
Hmm.
And that
Wow.
would be unfair to the world. So
He definitely sounds like a remarkable individual. This is why we love asking this question at the end of every interview. Everybody has a special story to share. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's difficult to share that, but I appreciate that because we can quickly tell a very generic answer from a heart. I mean, it's hard to tell stories like that, but we appreciate it so much. And that's what it's all about. I mean, it's about human connection, and these are stories that need to be shared because it's remarkable. So, Dr. Troletti, thank you so much for sharing that. We really appreciate that. But of course, more importantly, because the whole podcast's around education, thank
yeah.
you for sharing your insights into being a principal, some education thoughts on education, thoughts on how principals can help teachers that are experiencing burnout. Thank you for all that you do. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy task. And it's a very important one. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's really been a pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. This podcast is sponsored by ArgoPrep, an award-winning educational publisher serving over 1 million students nationwide. If you're a kindergarten to 8th grade teacher or principal, be sure to check out our supplementary workbooks to get your students ready for standardized state testing. We cover all subjects from kindergarten to 8th grade. Use the coupon code AVENUE for a 25% discount off of all purchase orders. Visit us today at argoprep.com/store.